Hello, my name is Tasneem Alsharif, and I'm a public health undergraduate student here at San Jose State. Today, I'll be discussing disparities and willingness to get a COVID-19 vaccine and attitudes towards vaccination among diverse college students. My research question was, what are the attitudes of college students towards the pandemic and the COVID-19 vaccine? What sources do college students use to provide accurate information about the COVID-19 vaccine? Does demographic factors such as race and gender affect the trust levels towards sources of information geared to the COVID-19 vaccine? And to what extent does trust in various sources of information affect willingness to vaccinate for COVID-19? Some background information. Long existing inequities in social determinants of health have affected attitudes towards the COVID-19 vaccine. With outbreaks of COVID-19 on college campuses spilling into nearby communities, a threat is posed to the containment of the pandemic. Hence, it is imperative to understand what sources college students use for information regarding the vaccine. The purpose of the study was to investigate various sources that diverse college students trust to provide accurate information about the vaccine and how this affects their willingness to vaccinate. For the methods, San Jose State undergraduate students from the epidemiology course conducted a cross-sectional survey. Data was collected through an anonymous online survey using Qualtrics. The 402 participants were representative of the social networks of these students. Regression analyses were used to assess trust levels and willingness to vaccinate. As for the results, we investigated various sources of information college students use for information regarding the COVID-19 vaccine, which included doctors, family and friends, news media, President Trump, federal public health officials, and state and local government officials. Out of all the participants, higher trust levels were found towards doctors, federal public health officials, compared to lower trust levels in news media and President Trump. Following this, we depicted that higher levels of trust in the federal public health officials and in the news media were associated with more willingness to get vaccinated. As for the average trust levels in these sources based on the demographic factors, minority groups such as Black, Latinx, and multiracial and other participants had less trust in most sources to provide accurate information about the vaccine compared to Asian and white groups. As for gender, women were also less likely to have trust in these sources than men, and these differences are more apparent when it comes to Latinx and white participants. As for the willingness to vaccinate, 55% of the participants were willing to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Women and those identifying as other reported more willingness to get vaccinated compared to men. As for race, Black, multiracial, and other participants, as well as Latinx, were also less likely to vaccinate compared to Asian and white participants. As for my conclusion, one of the most pressing human rights issues of our time is the equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines, both in the US and globally. Socially structured distrust in the vaccine is itself a human rights issue, and public health has a critical role to play in redressing this pattern harm and achieving the human right for health for all. Understanding the relative degree of trust in different sources to provide accurate information about these vaccines may improve vaccination uptake and allow us to reach herd immunity. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Here I have placed my contact information. Please do not hesitate to email me any questions you have that are not answered in the conference. And here are other authors that were involved in the COVID-19 study. And I would also like to acknowledge the San Jose State University, especially the Fall 2020 Public Health Epidemiology course sections 11 and 12 for conducting the survey. And finally, I would like to acknowledge the Thoracic Foundation for funding and supporting our study and research team. Thank you so much.